I am doing well, sir. Thank you so much for asking. Um, I'm pretty excited that we get to dive into the Daniel Hale case here in a little bit. There's a lot to talk about there. He definitely needs our support. So, yeah, we gotta protect. Oh, we gotta protect whistleblowers. I'm dressed so appropriately. And yeah, I'm excited that Bermas is here. Bermas, what's going on, man?
How you doing, guys? Same old, trying to fight censorship, tyranny, lockdowns, total oppression, expose the transhumanist movement that is now before us, and ever more blatant, the good stuff. The good stuff. The real life is actually what I've been talking about lately.
A real picnic, sunshine and rainbows.
Yes,
it's a good time.
Yes.
What has been going on with your channel and censorship and shit? I mean, I know that they've been going after a lot of people really hard. They've really gone after Convo Couch. They took Last American Vagabond down, and then apparently he got his channel back up. I don't know what that's about, but it feels like a trap. So what have you been dealing with on your end?
Well, I think Vagabond's gone now altogether. He had 2 channels. They're done. I am still striving to keep my channel on, even though a little over a week ago they took my channel down. So for those that don't know, and I don't think it's hilarious, I gotta wonder how it got back up, and let me explain why. First of all, two of the strikes, because you get a warning. One is my Alex Jones interview. I am unapologetic for that interview. I sourced everything I had with Alex Jones. We didn't talk about clockwork elves, and he wasn't drinking. So, it gets banned by YouTube. So that one was an actually strike. Now, 2 of them were me playing Dr. Pierre Corey. And I do want to show everybody that footage has been censored, even though we now have a lawsuit that's actually been won in Rochester, New York, for Mr. Corey and those using the drug he talks about in this Senate hearing, saving lives. Let me repeat that, saving lives. And of course, we also have more and more studies and reports and now recommendations, even in the United States and the United Kingdom, for budesonide. Again, guys, I have a high school education with a little bit of college. I'm a beauty school dropout, okay? And somehow, some way, I was able to identify these things long before any state, federal, or international governments have recognized them. I just want to point that out. So, riding this wave of censorship, I put up a video about transhumanism. We didn't say the C word. We didn't talk about boop boops. It had nothing to do with that. And about an hour before I was to go live with Kara Castronova, somebody who comes kind of from that MAGA crowd, but has now been able to successfully put together 2 protests in New York City with BLM against the medical martial law tyranny that we're seeing, I realized my channel had been taken down, and I received this email first. And of course it was, this is the impromptu protest one. Let's just do it live just to show everybody, I don't have doctor emails. We don't doctor things here. So we'll type in YouTube, and they're loving it, YouTube. I love them. I wish them nothing but the best. I've also gotten a bunch of copyright claims recently too, on top of it. And I've disputed them. And for some reason, they haven't gotten back to me on any of those either, even though they're all false. So here it is. It says that I have severe and repeated violations of community guidelines, and they've removed my channel. Now, when I went live with Kara Castronova, I announced, and I am dead serious about this still. I'm warning you, YouTube. This is 100% me and real. If you take me down, I am going to find one of your offices, and I will be there within the week live streaming to another platform and putting you on the spot. Everyone that walks in and out, I'm going to be asking them and giving them the literature why they want to kill people. See, I don't want to kill people. I want people to actually be able to, take care of themselves, live a happy life, be healthy, and not be in fear. Now, here's where it gets scary. What did they take me down for, supposedly? Oh, I guess we're going to have to do it live again. Actually, so let's go back. We'll just go back here because that email came in with it. So here's the content that got removed. You see, red card. I did it. The agenda in front of us all. And it was a video strictly about transhumanism, Elon Musk, weaponizing space. We didn't talk about the boopage, okay? But let me tell you what they got me for. Let's read this because this is really scary. A lot of people think that it's just World Health Organization and it's just medications, right? That you can't talk about. You can't go against them there. No, that's not the case anymore. YouTube doesn't allow content that explicitly disputes the efficacy, are you ready for this, of local health authorities or the WHO, hold on, in their guidance on social distancing and self-isolation that may lead people to act against that guidance. So I'm throwing a maskless Mother's Day picnic free of charge, noon to 5 with a bunch of other people in, I believe it's Crow Creek Park in Bettendorf, Iowa. I am encouraging people to not wear masks, obviously. Bring a Frisbee, bring a football, touch one another. We don't have any of those guidelines here, so I'm not going against local health authorities. So I don't know. Am I bad now because I want people to live their lives? That literally says I can't tell people to hug, and they're going to take me off the platform. So we've gone next level. People have to realize, I'm not being dramatic. I'm not being sensational when I'm trying to explain to you there's a reason that DARPA robot dogs are now on the street in New York. There's a reason they want QR codes for you to go to outdoor concerts. I'll give you another example. I have a lot of friends and contacts back in New York. One of my friends I've known since I was probably 12 years old, but we went to high school, kind of kept up, whatnot. We probably haven't seen each other in like a decade. Concert promoter type person, not only the only guy I know. Now, in a venue outside on private property that normally has 2,000 people, the lords, the authorities, the gangsters, Andrew Capo Cuomo and the gang, will allow him the privilege of having 200 people there. But if he wants to go Excelsior pass, he can go to that 30 percentile and have 600 people there. This is tyranny on another level, folks. This is all about control. It has nothing to do with the virus at this point. If you can't see that now, and it's funny, I get trolls on my page, right? Every time I post something, they want to talk about people in hospitals. Every time I mention the 2 medications that I highlight, and believe me, there are many others, they shut their mouth because there are studies on them, and they know they have blood on their hands. To me, I don't even know how you're a human being at this point. If you're ignoring these things and allowing people to suffer, and you would allow somebody to have this, to go into a hospital and get on a vent. Are you out of your mind?
So the craziest thing, right? University of Chicago, we've talked about this a couple times, put out a study at the end of last month showing, right, case study, it's not proven, but showing that the inhaling or eating of THC or CBD inhibits the growth, cell entry, replication, and boosts the immune system against COVID. So literally consuming marijuana makes you relatively healthy against coronavirus and stops entry of the virus into your lungs, reverses the RNA damage that it causes. Like it's insane.
Who would have thunk it?
Right?
I feel pretty safe, you guys.
I also
feel pretty invincible.
I did want one of the cool things. So our UK team this past weekend did absolutely awesome. They did a free Assange bus tour. Right? They rented a bus. They drove all around London protesting, and I want to show
London
because they did awesome. And
I love them so much, you guys. If you're not following them, all of them on Twitter, hit me up. I'll give you their Twitter handles. They have a show of their own. They are doing a fantastic job. They're like my favorite people on earth, and I've never wanted to be somewhere more than I wanted to be on those buses that day. I wanted to be there so bad.
So I'm going to load this up real quick because I thought it was awesome. And it reminds me, honestly, of the post 9/11 days where you would have people like grabbing the megaphones in Walmart yelling 9/11 was an inside job. So I personally just think it's wonderful. So let me play through this. I'm not going to play the whole 13 minutes, but I will put the link in for everyone to check it out. Oh, I know. Man. I'll get it. I'll grab it while we're going. Sorry.
He's amazing. But yeah, Bermas was just talking about how this is very clearly not about keeping anybody safe. I don't know how much more clear they can make it. They want to send your kids to school for 8 hours a day in a small room, you know, all hanging out together, but you can't like just have a picnic with your family or go to a movie, or that's ridiculous. All of these things are incredibly arbitrary, and it's so apparent. It's so obvious what they're doing. And listen, don't come at me like, oh, you're a COVID denialer. I don't care what you think about COVID. I don't care if you think it's real. I don't care if you think it's a complete hoax. I don't care if you think it's man-made, if it came from me. I don't give a shit what you think about COVID by itself. What they are doing because of COVID and the draconian measures that they're taking and the laws that they're enacting, everybody should be worried about that. The way that they're using this is very similar to what they did after 9/11. They're just going to keep putting on more laws, more restrictions, more regulations, and that's what they're using it. So even if you think it's real, the fact that they're using it to inhibit your civil liberties should be worrisome to everybody, period. So don't come for me. I don't give a shit what you think about COVID. Okay. I really don't.
And I'd love to have that debate, you know, with anybody, because to me, you know, I go, you know how I feel about this thing. I think it's interesting that now even the intelligence community is saying the lab theory is the one that they're running with, but they don't know where it came from. That's some happy horse shit, folks. Of course, at high levels, the intelligence community, they know how Q started. They know where this came from. They know all of that. This is the plan. I hate to break it to you, but again, when a guy who's still the chief scientist and engineer at NASA was running PowerPoints in 2001 telling you 2020 was going to be the age of bio and nano, okay, and he hits it spot on and says that they will have Trojan horses and civilian systems to go against the enemy after next. War on terror's over, baby. Guess where that enemy is? Inside the continental United States on his own PowerPoints. And you don't understand, this is very real. This is very organized. And a guy like me who dares to go beyond the narrative and say, look, I don't know exactly where or how this came from, but it does look like a biological element. I don't believe it was the Happy Fun vaccine they were trying to work on, and it just magically leaked out. I don't necessarily think it came out of Wuhan. How about that? That's not allowed to be talked about. They're building narratives now. They haven't told you the truth before. Why do you trust them now?
That is such a good question. It's amazing to me watching. It's like the same thing with the election. People all of a sudden were like, oh, this is the safest and most secure election in American history. Well, who said that? Where'd you get that information from? Oh, well, they said it on, the news or whatever. Really? These are the same people who have lied you into how many wars, and they've lied to you about like everything all the time. That's all they do is lie. And all of a sudden now, because you hate Trump so bad, you're willing to believe that our elections are secure. Come on. You're an otherwise intelligent human being. Don't do this. Like I ask people all the time, how many times does your government get to lie to you before your sense of skepticism kicks in? My starting off position is they're lying to me, and I go from there. And that should be everybody's. That's like just a common sense thing. They are lying to you. They are always lying to you. And that's what makes, seriously, the Julian Assange case so important, because they are seeking complete and total narrative control. They do not want any outside narratives, any dissent whatsoever. And that's what this is about. That's what Daniel Hale's about. That's what all of this stuff is an effort to completely lock down narrative management. They only want you to know what they want you to know. And that's it. And that's why this is so important, because I don't know about you guys, but I don't want the psychopaths in charge, in control of everything, including the information I'm allowed to see, hear, read, and know. That's scary.
Absolutely. And listen, when I talk about this transhumanist movement and these frontmen and Elon Musk, et cetera, and things like Neuralink, the very man that made this PowerPoint presentation called The Future Is Now. You can see the 48-page version. There's a 113-page version. Anybody can read it. It's in very simple English. You can go through it. But in 2011, he gave a really interesting speech, and most of it was on water and alternative energy, etc. But here were the key moments for me. In 2011, he openly talked about, we might have to introduce a little population control. And then he gets into the real good stuff, that, the planet may be so uninhabitable that we'll actually just have to genetically modify and create humanoids on the planet. So then he starts talking about human brain interfaces and chips in the brain. And he openly and gleefully admits in 2011, and I'm going to go and I'm going to say, you know what, the number on this is probably far higher than what he even said. He goes, we've already put brain chips in 10,000 people. That was 10 years ago. The guy's still the chief scientist at NASA. The paperwork that he was discussing 20 years ago was in accordance with the NSA, the DOJ, the CIA, the FBI, DARPA, and just about any other listed agency you can imagine. People have to grow up. They're telling you that this technology that they are injecting you with came from DARPA. That was like the little sly announcement they gave you, even though Whitney Webb and others had covered it when they did this 60 Minutes piece, when they wanted to introduce you to their new biochips that are a little different than the RFID chips, aren't they? Isn't that nice that DARPA has those on tap? What's really stunning, again, because people can't read at that 3rd and 4th grade level, in that all these documents, they tell you that this technology that we're talking about, excuse me, is inventoried for 30 to 40 years. And somewhere in that midpoint, in that inflection point of 10 to 15, is when they start introducing it to consumers. Sorry, guys. I know I went ranting and raving. Oh,
No, you're fine. I'm
not
trying
at
to
all.
deal with the chat.
Literally the very minute technology is something that this whole thing's built on. Everything from publicly available propulsion systems to the things that they keep hidden, like electrogravitic technology. And so that's a fight that I think is super important too, because we, for the last 50 years, have been shoehorned into the lockstep agenda by Kissinger, where they limit access to information and technology to literally everyone except the moneyed elite, and then allow it to roll out in controlled phases to institute higher levels of control over society. Like, to the point that I think lockstep even calls for what's happening right now with a pandemic lockdown. And then in its own words in the document, it talks about how they're going to allow protests to be built on anti-lockdowns, and then that's when they're going to release the higher level virus.
Yes. Unbelievable, right?
Yeah.
But then think about this. Right now, and you can look this up, this is probably something I'm going to be talking about later today, Andrew Zelikow, who was one of the lead commissioners in the 9/11 report, is now calling for a COVID commission led by institutions, including, guess what you just said, Rockefeller Institution, on this, and how we need to manage these type of pandemic. What can we learn from
Unbelievable.
COVID? It's not unbelievable. He did a full interview on it. The Rockefeller Institution, and I forget, there was a couple other really scary ones. That one obviously jumped out at me. But for those that don't understand that Philip Zelikow is a living demon, okay, literally a living demon, a neocon that wants to work with these same neoliberals that are going to prop him up, just like Joey B, aka Zombie Joe, is now getting advice from George W. Bush on Afghanistan. And we're going to the 20th anniversary of 9/11. I mean, if you believe that, give me a break. We're in scary, weird times. And again, if you don't understand 9/11, you're probably having a real tough time understanding what's going on 20 years later. But,
well, and I think that people need to stop with the oh, well, you're just a conspiracy theorist. Y'all, think about all of the things that you know for certain that our government has done. All of the horrible, terrible things that we know. There's no question. There's evidence. We know about the Gulf of Tonkin. We know about incubator babies. We know about the weapons of mass destruction. We know about the Torque program. We know about collateral murder. Think about all of the horrible things that they've done that you know about. If they've done that and that's all you know about, imagine what you don't know about. They are capable of absolutely anything.
And
they will do anything.
Came around on this, by the way. I want to make that very clear, because there were certain times when Assange attacked 9/11 truth way back in the day, even before he was in the Ecuadorian embassy. But at the very end, when he was still giving lectures via the internet to these crowds, somebody asked him about that. And he goes, you know what? That really does kind of need to be looked at again. I forget the exact quotes, but it was one of my first videos on my comeback I'd done about Assange. I'm going to revisit that again, because even he, I believe, started to see some things that showed him that this narrative that they built around Osama bin Laden and possibly the raid after Seymour Hersh had exposed it. I think that he was like, you know what? Maybe I was wrong about this. He never explicitly said that. But again, Assange has been 100% with WikiLeaks. And just like they were tweeting out when he first put out those Podesta emails, please look for evidence of human trafficking in there. And then obviously there seemed to be a lot of evidence of human trafficking in there. The media went full board on that and tried to make it about one pizza place and kids.
Well, that's where the whole term fake news came from too. Like literally, if you go on Google Trends and type in Pizzagate, kick it back 5 years, type in fake news, kick it back 5 years, within 24 hours of that coming out, not that Pizzagate is the thing, but of that information becoming more exposed to the public, that's literally when the term fake news took off.
Well, they do that a lot because they want to be able to discredit the conversation about it entirely. So now if you want to talk about human trafficking and child sex exploitation amongst powerful people, which we all know happens. Hello, Jeffrey Epstein. We know it happens. But now if you talk about it, you're crazy, you're a kook. You're crazy. You're a Pizzagator. You know what I mean? And they do that intentionally. They want to discredit anybody who wants to even bring that conversation up. They did it with Seth Rich, and that still pisses me off. I love like true crime stories and like trying to figure out mysteries and shit like that. And I'm not allowed to talk about Seth Rich and unsolved murder of a DNC employee that was tried to be passed off as like a botched robbery where they didn't take anything. That's a fishy story, and I'm interested in that. And but if you talk about it, you're a crazy conspiracy theorist, and then you're discredited, and people will mock you and laugh at you. But they do that on purpose. That's the whole point behind the conspiracy theory label that they give people. You know, it's not like we don't have historical reference for this.
I got the video downloaded and ready if you want me to play some bus tour.
Yeah, I would love to see some bus tour.
Yeah,
Those are my people.
I'm gonna have to screen share to myself on this, so give me 1 second.
Okay. Sorry, everybody. We don't have Sleepy J because Steve is interviewing Ryan Christian, Last American Vagabond, and this was the only day that he had available. So Sleepy J's helping with that.
And we should we'll probably be wrapped up before that starts too, I hope, because I don't want to interfere with that.
Yeah, we definitely need to get into Daniel Hale, though, my friend. We have to. It's important. That's Daniel. There he is.
Every single time. Stop. Guillermo. On the coffee.
Well, we got coffee here anyhow.
Good.
This is like one of us. British intelligence.
But it's definitely worth watching. Let me turn on my screen share. Sorry.
Yes, and just so everybody knows, what they did is they took the buses from the Ecuadorian embassy and essentially retraced Julian's steps as he was taken from the embassy to Belmarsh. So they went all through the city of London, yelling at the top of their lungs with megaphones, and it looked like a lot of fun, and I'm pretty jealous, actually. It looked awesome.
Yeah, it seemed really cool. And
Yeah.
I wanted to share this with you, Jason, because I thought it would be something that might bring a smile. For the simple fact that, like, it took almost 5 to 10 years to build a civilian resistance on 9/11. Like, to get that truth to the general public large enough that people were willing to then organize and share that information. And you had a huge, huge role. Like, I saw your documentary as early as, like, 2011 as just a college kid bopping around. So I appreciate that, and I think that this is hopefully what we're seeing now globally is the start of something like that, where people just stand up to take action in their own place and time, and literally, whether it's grabbing a microphone in Walmart or renting a bus with some friends to drive around.
I think we
downtown
are
London.
seeing that. I've seen at least, I think, a half a dozen new Assange, like local Assange groups starting up. all over the place. And that's really super exciting to me. And also shout out to Allie, who organized the bus tour for everybody. She was the one that got all that together, and she's amazing and I love her dearly. So shout out to Allie Mae. We love you, girl. But yeah, I think that we are definitely starting to see an increase in the support. And I think what we've just seen as far as the journalists getting attacked at the protests, over the past few nights. I mean, we saw it last summer too. Journalists were getting, detained and pepper sprayed and all of that good stuff. But it is really ramped up. I mean, a journalist got punched in the face last night. They were making everybody show their credentials and then taking their pictures. The journalists were told that they were going to be tracking them. That's insane, you guys. This is the United States, and they're taking pictures of journalists and telling them we're going to be tracking you now. That's crazy. Like, are y'all not terrified by that? Because I am. I'm fucking terrified by that. And I think people are starting to see how intense it's getting. I hope so anyway. Jesus, I don't know what else we have to do to get people to see.
You know what? I don't know that anyone's going to see it. I think that you've got those that have realized it and have now started to navigate this a little bit better. I mean, we still have a militarized DC. We still don't know the name of the police officer that shot that woman inside of the Capitol, but we do know that there will be no charges against him. However, we're going to charge the person that videotaped it. That's a big problem. There's a lot going on right now, to the point where, again, like even that 13-year-old kid that just got shot. I don't want to see 13-year-old kids get shot. He had a gun. Let me repeat that. He's on the street late at night. He had a gun. We immediately know that police officer's name. And now we have all these protests and riots in the street. Again, I'm not saying that police reform isn't a necessary thing, but they're going to play that, especially in Chicago, to more gun reform. My state has taken the opposite approach and said, hey, you don't even have to register a gun here anymore. You're more than welcome to have it. They play that down in the media. They're going to play this up. And, I don't know that people see it. I think it's absolute insanity when, for instance, another thing about this Capitol Hill incident is that they used all their track, trace, database tools to begin with. And they knew how to find most of these people, and they still turn people into a snitch society. They're getting more and more people used to telling on their neighbors. Even in that press conference about Canada yesterday, it was specifically asked, you see your neighbors outside and they're having a barbecue or there's people over. Should you call it in? Well, you might have that responsibility now.
Well, we've transitioned into an Among Us culture, Jason, right? So you have political leaders like Ocasio-Cortez getting her obviously impressionable audience to go play a game for hours a day that just programs you to think someone's suspicious. And that's literally bled into everyone's lives, where people now use the word sus in a daily basis, and they want to find the person. But the other travesty is that you don't even have to be right, because at the end of the day, the game ends, right? But in real life, that doesn't happen. When you report someone because you don't like them or you think that they're suspicious, you're going to get that person fucking scooped up and thrown into a gulag. They're going to go to a FEMA camp or a detention hotel, and they're going to be there maybe indefinitely. And it's fucking disgusting. And
anyone who thinks that the FBI needs your help when they have access to like the best facial recognition software on planet Earth, you really think they need your help identifying these people? They don't. They just want to know who the snitches are. That's all. They just want to know who you are. And you're just helping them, bootlickers.
That's exactly it. They want to train you to be a slave class, right? That's what really this control for your kids in school is, for stickers and not being around and wearing a mask here and not there. They're training you as a parent to think that's okay too. So it's generational. They'll see where the family bootlickers are. Okay. They're going to go along to get along. They also want to know who the really scared informants are. I had an experience yesterday that really broke my heart. I'm on my way to get my morning coffee. First, I see this teenage kid get out with his mask. I'm like, why the fuck is this kid in a mask? There's no mandate here. They're really cool here. Then there's a woman probably in her 50s, 60s. She's in a mask. Okay. And then there's a woman probably 60 years old or older behind me, also in a mask. Now, the kid holds the door for the woman in front of him. She won't touch the door. See, it progressively gets worse in the fear. You get to see how scared everybody really is. She uses her elbow because she's not going to touch her jacket later, right? She's safe. She touched her elbow. She holds
Dude, they invented like little gadgets that like you can use to push buttons and open doors with. It's like a little metal thing that has like a hook on one side and a little pointy thing on one side, so you don't have to like push elevator buttons or open doors with your hands or anything. It's fucking crazy.
It is crazy. So then the last woman intentionally slows down, and as I try to hold the door, she freaks out. No, I'm okay. No. And I'm just like, I can't even hold the door for a 60-year-old woman anymore because she's scared shitless that I'm not wearing a mask. My God, we've gotten this far. We've got sunny day out, 75 degrees. Just what happened? I'm not a revolutionary. I've never been a revolutionary. I've been begging for a reformation of our Constitution and Bill of Rights, but you have to understand this has nothing to do with any kind of government that was set up for a free humanity. And our Constitution and Bill of Rights have been eviscerated over the last 60, 70 years with the growing media military industrial complex, and they've colluded around the world. People better get it through their head. I'm not a conspiracy theorist. Throw me your best lefty. Throw me your best righty. Throw me whatever moderator you want. Put it on live. We'll do it live. And I guarantee I will make them look like a simpleton. I'll make them look like a child 100% of the time. These people don't know what they're talking about. They don't have the evidence to back it up. They will get flustered. They will call names or they will ignore. And unfortunately, that's not what we need. We need people like you who realize this stuff to get out for Assange, right? To get out against these lockdowns, to get out against Excelsior Pass, to say that sergeant in Canada is right. Because a lot of people are still asking the dumb question. How did you not leave 1930s or 40s Germany with the Nazis and Hitler's in power? My bigger question right now is, if you live in Canada, how have you not physically stormed the border with force to leave if necessary, not allowing you there and now asking for your papers on the streets in certain areas? I mean, how are you not leaving now? If you were asking that question at any time in history and you live in Canada and you've not packed your stuff up and figured out a plan to cross the border illegally, I don't know what to tell you.
Well, the UK is the same way.
What's that?
It's everywhere. It's everywhere. Where are you going to go? Where are you going to go? Australia is the same way.
The UK passed a bill a few months ago that we've been covering endlessly, hoping that someone larger than us, like the big fish in the sea, will pick it up. The UK passed a law that allows every single institution of their government, essentially, to break whatever law they want for the financial benefit of the United Kingdom.
They can murder. They can whatever.
They can do mass genetic experimentation with untested vaccinations on target populations to determine outcome and result.
And now they have the protest bill where now they're trying to like you cannot protest. If you are a nuisance, you can be thrown in jail for being a nuisance while protesting. Well, that's the fucking point of protest, is to be a nuisance.
Well, we had it back in September, right? I think it was September, where the members of the UK embassy staff came out and complained to the Secret Service that we were being too loud. And the Secret Service told them, sorry, they're here to protest.
It's a protest.
Right. So that attitude amongst people of the UK isn't, amongst the privileged elite of the UK, I guess, isn't that exciting, considering they're willing to walk out of an embassy and say, hey, I know we're torturing a guy, but can you tell them to be quiet? I need to make a phone call.
Take it down a notch, guys. We got torture to do. They like to do their torture in quiet, Andrew.
Well, that's actually true. They do love their torture in quiet. They love their black sites. They don't even like that you have names like Abu Ghraib or Gitmo. And that's why they, again, one of their little funnies with the QAnon sense was to make you think that Gitmo was good, right? Oh, Gitmo's in. We got the war criminals. We got them all. We got the corpse of Jimmy Savile down there. We're doing it. We did it all. I mean,
It's depressing how effective Q was. It really is. It turned a lot of people's brains off, and that's just really unfortunate. It's like, I mean, it is Russiagate. It's Russiagate for, the red team. But both of those things.
The free Assange movement's was what honestly broke QAnon. And no one was willing to admit it, or I don't even think most of them even realize it, right? But pardoning Julian
when Trump didn't pardon, when there was no pardon,
that was
a lot of people were like, wait.
And only demand that Trump's base made of him his entire presidency. The whole rest of Trump's presidency, the hallmark was trust the plan. And then in this very last few days, the people that supported him made one demand out of 4 years and didn't get what they asked for. one demand of someone that was supposed to be by their side this entire time, taking down the global military establishment. And he wouldn't give them the one thing that they asked for.
No, instead, he strengthened their hold on Julian Assange and other whistleblowers. Counterterrorism document 2020 to 2022 was very, very stark in what it said. They don't want public disclosure organizations. They don't want ideologically motivated individuals. Those people are ISIS. Those people are Al Qaeda. And now more than ever, you've seen them use that type of mentality with their domestic terror and sifting through military personnel and what their political beliefs are. And now sifting through, like, even, I don't think people understand how important even that marijuana thing was with the Biden administration. Let me tell you why that was important. Because just like when they interview you for the FBI, they want to make sure that you're following the rules of society to a certain extent, that you're going to follow the internal rules of the bureaucracy that you're then joining, right? So at first, because they want all these people to work for you and want to see how they work, you say, oh, it's not a big deal. We all smoke pot. You can say whatever. But then after the fact that you admit it, you say, you know what? That person might be a little too empathetic to people. Might have a little too much feeling, might not be able to go along with this corruption, might expose us later on. We might have problems with them. Let's get rid of them. And that's what that was really about to me. So again, they're going through with these profiles that they already have constructed online, and they are getting rid of those inside their own media military industrial complex that would challenge them at any level. So, and they are instituting people like Chris Hayes, okay? And they are putting in, that's why they want to pack the Supreme Court, man. 5-4 is how it passed for religious establishments to continue to worship in California, right? The Supreme Court voted 5-4. They were correct. It should have been 9-0. They packed that Supreme Court, okay? And all of a sudden, it's going to be 9-4 the other way.
Mm-hmm.
So Jason,
yeah, 100%.
I have to step off camera for just a second, but I was wondering if you knew, because we're about to talk about Daniel Hale here in a moment, if you knew anything about the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency, because that was one of the institutions he was a part of when he became a whistleblower.
No, but I would imagine that it is the offshoot of the Total Information Awareness Network that was built up before 2001, pre 9/11, and then they renamed it to some kind of a terrorist organization. But not, I'm definitely not familiar specifically with that organization. I'm sure you can tell us about it, Misty.
I actually can't. I don't know. I don't even know what he's talking about. Yeah, but this Daniel Hale case is pretty fucking terrifying. I mean, all of them are. Anytime anybody's charged, the Espionage Act needs to go. Without question. It's just an unbelievable abuse of power. And in the espionage court, there's no defense. I know we've talked about this before, because obviously we've talked about Julian Assange and the fact that he faces espionage court, but you don't get to make a defense for yourself. You don't get to defend yourself. There is no public interest defense. You don't get to say what your intentions were. You don't, I did this because it was a good thing. No, there's nothing. And not only that, but your jury pool. I mean, this is Virginia. This is the Eastern Court of Virginia, and these people are all national security people. They're all FBI, NSA. I mean, that's your entire jury pool will be automatically against you. And not to mention your judge. I mean, you really think the judge in the espionage court is going to go against the government? Of fucking course not. That's ridiculous. And so, I mean, these people are getting hosed, and we've seen it time and time again. Look what they did to John Kiriakou. Look what they did to Bill Binney. Look what they did to Thomas Drake or Jeffrey Sterling. I mean, these are all people that have been entirely railroaded for doing the right thing, and nobody is standing to their defense ever. Still now, Daniel Hale leaked information about our absolutely criminal drone program, showed us evidence that 90% of the people killed by drones are innocent civilians. They're not precise like they try to claim that they are. They're not targeted attacks. And they literally sit around with like a hit list, and they have little baseball cards. Literally, they're little baseball cards with these people on them and like stats about them on the back. And the president is handed like a stack of baseball cards and decides who he's going to have murdered today. And that's crazy. With no trial, there's no due process, there's nothing. You're not even charged with a crime. It's just like, oh, this guy looks like the winner today. Let's go kill him. And that's happening in the United States. And, Daniel Hale very courageously leaked that information to Jeremy Scahill, allegedly to Jeremy Scahill, just so I don't get myself in trouble. But fuck Jeremy Scahill and The Intercept. If you're a whistleblower, stay the fuck away from The Intercept, please. Please do not go to The Intercept. Please. 3 times now, they have totally screwed over a source. Is it 3 or 4? I think it's 3.
I think it's 3.
Reality winner.
Edward Snowden and Daniel Hale.
Well, Edward Snowden, I don't know that they necessarily screwed him, kind of. But there's another guy, Ahmed Arbery. I think that's right, or something like that. I'm forgetting. But yeah, there's like at least 3 sources that I know of off the top of my head that they have completely screwed over. That's not good. Go to WikiLeaks. They're still taking submissions.
So,
seriously.
I know you have to get going here in a little bit, Jason. But I want to give you some final thoughts and have you be able to tell everybody where they can find you.
Thank you, brother. Listen, the final thoughts are none of this is going to get easier. We're all going to have to navigate this no matter where you're watching this from, whether you're out in Europe, you're in Canada, you're in the United States, South America, you name it. We got a zombie in there. Okay. This whole administration is a facade for a total takeover. And even that zombie has kind of let you know that by saying, hey, we're going to have 100,000 contact tracers. Hey, DARPA is going to get involved in an initiative to end cancer. Hey, we might not have a Republican Party in 4 years. Hey, we are going to have this commission to look at the Supreme Court and whether or not we need to add these justices. All these are right in your face. I mean, they moved the All-Star game from Georgia, Atlanta, with like a 30, 40, maybe even 50% black population to the whitest place they could in Colorado because they don't want accountability in voting. They'd love to see you bootlick into your slavery all the way through the next election cycle so that they can continue to legitimize you not going to polling stations and not voting in person so that they don't have to have a physical record of exit polls. This is it. This is the takeover. Look at their timeline. Look into documents like The Future Is Now that I discussed today. Look into Dennis Bushnell. Read Annie Jacobson's books on Paperclip, Area 51, and DARPA. They're important. They're the history you were never taught, and you still don't understand. I don't understand all of it, and I've seen a ton of the public documents. But I understand the basis of what's going on, and it ain't good. It ain't good at all. So if you love your friends, your family, yourself, if you want to be selfish about it, I'm okay with that. You got to get out. You got to be your own hero. You got to be Andrew. Okay. Andrew has worked on this for 2-3 years in public now, grinding away, whether he had 4 people watching, 40, 400, or 4,000. He's the guy that grabs the megaphone when there's 150 Proud Boys right there and he wants his message to get out about Assange. Where has that earned him? That's earned him a voice to millions of people by being able to get on the Tucker Carlson show. Now, if you saw him on the Tucker Carlson show and you're seeing me now for the first time, maybe it's time for you to activate. And that's how you do it. So I just want to say, keep it up. Keep doing your thing. You can find me over at YouTube for now, but probably not much longer. Create the free account at Rockfin. We're almost 15,000 strong over there. And I'm going to be continuing to run my mouth and get out there and trying to be a bastion for free speech. Maskless Mother's Day in Bettendorf. Come on down 12 to 5. Treat your mom to a burger and a good time.
Excellent.
I think it would be something awesome if that was like a big national thing where people just locally organized Mother Days events.
I hope they do.
Yeah. That's something that I've been thinking about doing too, just getting as a way to get my community involved in something.
Yeah, and live stream it.
Yeah.
That hey, I don't even know this person. Hey, look, our kids are playing together. Hey, I'm shaking hands. Oh, wow, there are plates right there. I cooked this burger. I'm maskless. They're eating it. Everybody's okay. They've
Yeah.
got so much of this in the media. They don't want to, show you the Texas Rangers at full capacity. They don't want to show you spring break over in Florida. Like I said, just before this, I just got back from the Betplex. Thousands of people in this giant plex, kids playing soccer, people not getting sick, not dropping dead. And we're not even talking about those people getting the medications that we alluded to in the beginning of this program. So guys, this stuff is all interconnected. It's not a conspiracy theory. Anybody who wants to say that it is, open invites. Come on. If I'm so dumb, let's do it. Anytime, place, anyone.
Yeah. Cool. Thanks, Bermas. We appreciate you, dude, and all your work.
All right. Thanks, guys. Talk to you soon.
Yeah. Later. All right, man.
Daniel Hale.
Let's
stuff?
jump into some Daniel Hale.
Yeah, I'm gonna.
So while you were off camera, I did kind of speak about espionage court and how he's not really able to. If you get charged with the Espionage Act, there is no defense for you. There is really no defense for you. It's basically a complete kangaroo court. It's a show trial. They're going to F you over. And I think an important thing to know about what's happening to Daniel Hale right now is he has 5 charges against him. He's pled guilty to 1. And normally when that happens, the government will drop the other 4 charges, but they've decided to refrain from doing so until sentencing in July, because they said that if the sentencing is not as harsh as they think it should be, they will then pursue the other 4 charges. So this dude's really getting railroaded.
And that's
he is a
crazy
legitimate
concept,
hero.
right?
What's that?
That's a crazy concept to be like, hey, we'll wait till you're sentenced, and if we don't like it,
if it's not harsh enough, then we're coming after you again. That's crazy.
Well, that's in effect what they did to Chelsea Manning. Not for the same reason, but they literally drug her in and out. Once she was out of jail, right, on the commutation from Obama, they drug her back in 2 more times over
and then re-jailed her because she wouldn't roll over on Julian. I mean, it's intense what these people go through. They will come for you. And John Kiriakou has spoken about it at length. I mean, they will come for you. They'll just wait till you're bankrupt and beaten down. And then they'll just fuck you over and give you a guilty, they'll have you plead guilty and completely ruin your life, discredit you, ruin your reputation, destroy your family. I mean, there's no length that they won't go to.
So I'm gonna slap this up here for us real quick. Can you see it, Misty?
Yes, I can. Do you want me to read?
Yeah, if you want to. There's a couple. We'll go through a few of them.
Okay. So the documents that Hale provided to investigative journalist Jeremy Scahill, again, allegedly, because I don't know that it's been confirmed, but everybody knows it's him, of The Intercept, contributed significantly to public awareness of the U.S. military drone warfare and assassination programs developed during the Obama administration. The information helped to expose the existence of the secret programs that drone strikes killed many more innocent people than their supposed, quote, targets, and that U.S. citizens had been killed extrajudicially, man, that word's so hard for me, by drone strikes in violation of their constitutional rights. The reason Hale cited for pleading guilty is because the Espionage Act charges prevent a public interest defense, as I was just talking about. In other words, Hale's lawyers were barred from arguing that the need of the public to be made aware of the criminal activities of the U.S. government was more important than his obligation not to disclose classified information to anyone. Hale, who was an intelligence analyst for the U.S. Air Force before moving on to the National Security Agency and then the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency, knowingly took highly classified documents and disclosed them without authorization, thereby violating his solemn obligations to our country. And I object to that because that's the exact opposite of what he did. He is a true patriot. According to a statement from Raj, I'm not even going to attempt it. I'm not going to. Okay. Hale had initially centered his defense on First Amendment grounds, and his numerous defenders condemned his prosecution as a violation of press freedom and freedom of speech. His lawyer, Jocelyn Raddick, issued a statement saying, the quote, the U.S. government's policy of punishing people who provide journalists with information in the public interest is a profound threat to free speech, free press, and a healthy democracy, unquote. Quote, classified information is published in the press every day. In fact, the biggest leaker of classified information is the U.S. government. She's absolutely right. They leak stuff all the time, only what they want you to know. However, the Espionage Act is used uniquely to punish those sources who give journalists information that embarrasses the government or exposes its lies. Every whistleblower jailed under the Espionage Act is a threat to the work of the national security journalists and the sources they rely upon to hold the government accountable, she added.
This is the same thing that Julian's facing right now, right?
Yes.
Where he, once taken to the United States, will face this exact same court, this exact same process, but do it from the position of a publisher rather than of a whistleblower.
Which is what makes people often argue with me, oh, well, why don't you defend Snowden, or why don't you defend Reality Winner? First of all, we do. We talk about those people. We support those people. But what makes Julian's case so specifically unique is that he will be the first journalist or publisher charged under the Espionage Act. That opens up Pandora's box. That literally destroys investigative journalism, especially national security state journalism. That's not something we want. That's terrifying. That means that the people who are committing these war crimes, who are killing journalists and who are, drone striking civilians and weddings and funerals and school buses, those people will now be able to do those things with absolute abandon. They will have no worry whatsoever that they will be exposed. I don't know about you guys, but I'm not down with that.
No,
in any way.
It's the most horrifying thing to see this transition, right? Like the fact, so people give Obama a lot of credit. They're like, oh, he decided not to prosecute Julian, right? But he laid the legal framework for doing so. His administration built the process for the Trump administration.
Well, that's what I try to tell people. They've been slow walking us into this for decades. This is something that, free speech and press freedom have been under attack for forever. Just for forever. Powerful people do not like their shit exposed. That's just the end of the story. But it really has been something that has been over the course of decades, where it's just chipping away little by little. It's so you don't pay attention. If it's just like a little chink here and there, a little chink here and there, then people are like, oh, it's not that big of a deal, whatever. You'll ignore it. And so slowly but surely, and again, I've said over decades, but I would say over the last 10 or 15 years, it has been ramped up exponentially. Like Obama was a whole other level of attacks on press freedom and freedom of speech. That really is where it went like rolling downhill. And it's just getting worse.
And Trump prosecuted more people under the Espionage Act. And Daniel Hale is Biden's first conviction. So the hope is to have no one prosecuted under the Espionage Act because it shouldn't exist.
Yes, the Espionage Act should go. It's ridiculous. Shout out to Tulsi Gabbard for introducing legislation to reform it. But no, girl, that needs to be abolished like today. It's ridiculous. It's incredibly draconian. It doesn't make any sense whatsoever. It's been around since 1917. It's time to revisit that and get rid of it. It's not a good thing. And especially because the Espionage Act was meant for spies, you guys. These aren't spies. These are conscientious objectors. These are people who have a conscience, who are seeing things that are wrong in their workplace. They work for the United States government. And I would say 99% of the whistleblowers that I know of attempted to go through proper channels before they resorted to leaking information to journalists. They tried to do it the right way, but really, it's like going to the cops and asking them to investigate themselves. That's never going to work out. These are people need to understand that whistleblowers are not the enemy. They are your friend. They're trying to expose criminality and wrongdoing in your government that's being done in your name. These war crimes are being done in your name. You are an American citizen. It's your job to speak out against this kind of conduct. Your government shouldn't be allowed to do this. I've said it before. People in power should be terrified to step out of line. There should be so much accountability and so much transparency that they are never even going to think about doing the things that they're doing right now. That's the way it should be. We should have all the privacy in the world, and they should have nothing but transparency. That's not the way it works right now. We got to flip it.
So I'm going to jump back in here real quick. I'll set this up a little better for next time. So this is Biden's first Espionage Act conviction. Hale was charged in 2019 during the Trump administration after he leaked classified information on the U.S. government's targeted assassination program to a reporter, according to court documents, that matches the description of The Intercept's founding editor, Jeremy Scahill. He was the first person to face sentencing for the Espionage Act offense during the Biden administration. As vice president under Barack Obama, Biden contributed to the creation of the whistleblower protections in Dodd-Frank, in the Dodd-Frank Wall Street Reform and Consumer Protection Act, while simultaneously serving in an administration that was promising a new era of open government, relentlessly targeting individuals that revealed U.S. war crimes and other classified information. With the trial set to begin next week, which is this week that just passed, Hale was forced to plead guilty in order to avoid potentially spending decades in federal prison. Although 4 of the 5 counts still remain against him, he is scheduled for sentencing on July 3rd and is expected to be 13th, sorry, and is expected to be punished with no more than 10 years in jail. According to the Washington Post, Judge Liam O'Grady of the Eastern District of Virginia has indicated that Hale's sentence would probably not change based on the number of convictions and said he would take up the issue at sentencing. In a Justice Department press release, Assistant Attorney General John C. Demers said of the case that Hale has now admitted that the evidence at trial would have conclusively shown that he took classified documents from his work at the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency, documents that he had no right to retain and that he sent to a reporter knowing all along that what he was doing was against the law. And I think it's simply horrifying that it's against the law to expose crime. Because it's literally a law that you are not allowed to use the classification system to hide any crime whatsoever. Ever, period. Like not even a traffic violation, let alone an international drone program where they were executing American citizens on baseball cards.
Right? Baseball cards, like so ridiculously flippant. This is a life. There's no trial. There's no due process. There's no charges brought up against this person. They don't get to face their accusers in court. They're just murdered. And that's insanity. And that should be exposed. Like you raise your kids. Like I'm a mom, I have kids. If you see something, say something. Like it's okay to you don't want a little tattletale who's like running around telling on everybody all the time. But if you see something that's bad or dangerous or hurtful, speak up, do the right thing, tell the truth. And then we at the highest levels of government, that's completely frowned upon. It's a completely backwards world that we live in. And this dude shouldn't be facing any charges. He shouldn't be facing any jail time. I mean, they're talking about how, if he does this plea agreement, he'll only face maybe 10 years. He should have 0 years. He should be celebrated. There should be a Daniel Hale Day, where we all have parades and picnics. Like that. This isn't a game. Like these are people who are exposing the absolute underbelly and the evilness
and
this is when
Ocasio-Cortez is telling her viewers or her friends or people that are mind washed and brain controlled to go and report people that say bad things about her. She's not like,
she sent out a mass email to her entire email list, which is massive, to tell people to go on social media and mass report anybody who was mean to her. That is beyond fucked up.
Right. So instead of building a culture of whistleblowers, instead of Ocasio saying like, hey, if you're someone that follows me with the smallest position where you can report something, send it to me and I'll put it in the congressional record. Right. She's not doing that. She's not calling for whistleblowers. She's not calling for accountability. She's calling for people to report on people and
she's calling for more censorship and more authoritarianism. She's not your friend. She's not your friend. I don't care. People get mad at me because I talk about her a lot. It's because she's a problem. She's an absolute problem. She's a danger.
The whole identity politics, we support 100% crowd is a problem. Right? Because it doesn't just stop and start with Ocasio. Ocasio is the face of an institution that has been built to make people believe that they are represented by someone when they are not.
No, none of these people have your best interests at heart. None of them. You do not make it to Congress if you're one of those people. And if you do, you will either be pushed out very quickly or you will be co-opted. You will be brought into the fold and you will start capitulating and manipulating your morals and your positions to make yourself feel better about things. And that's just the way it is. That's why voting isn't going to work. You're not going to vote your way out of this. The entire system is completely corrupt to its core. And that's just where we stand. And it sucks because that is going to be a nightmare, but that's where we're at. It really is. And also, I just want to bring up the fact, if you guys want to know the kind of person that Daniel Hale is, this is a guy who, was, I think, in the Air Force, and he's working in these government positions. He's got healthcare. He's making good money. Not only does he then whistleblow, right? But then after he gets fired, and it's hard to find a job, after you've been, accused or charged with a national security crime. So he gets a job as a dishwasher in Washington, D.C., right? He just got fired recently. Do you want to know why? He was trying to organize the staff. That's the kind of guy he is. This is a dude who's already up on Espionage Act charges. And then he goes to get a job as a dishwasher and tries to organize his workspace. That's the guy. This is a guy who's in the fight. Like, he's in it.
That is a tough motherfucking bastard.
Yes.
That's what that is. That is a hell of a
Yes. So, that's the kind of guy I want on my team.
We have 3 more slides to go through real quick. And I just want to make sure we're not jumping into Steve too hard. If you want to do these 2, I'll do the last one.
Okay. In court on Wednesday, Hale admitted that he was the author of a chapter written by an anonymous author in Scahill's book called Why I Leaked the Watch List Documents. In an interview published on The Intercept on October 15th, 2015, an anonymous source, presumably Hale, tells Scahill that the outrageous explosion of watch listing, of monitoring people and racking and stacking them on lists, assigning them numbers, assigning them baseball cards, assigning them death sentences without notice on a worldwide battlefield, it was from the very first instance wrong. Jocelyn Raddick, an attorney representing Hale, issued a statement about the guilty plea through the organization Whistleblower and Source Protection Program, Whisper, at Expedited Facts, which said Daniel Hale may have pleaded to account under the Espionage Act, but he is not a spy. He was accused of giving an investigative journalist truthful information in the public interest about the secretive U.S. drone warfare program.
These are multiple different statements of support that people have given out for Daniel Hale, John Kiriakou, and a couple other organizations.
Kiriakou, a former CIA agent who under Obama was sentenced to 30 months imprisonment for exposing U.S. torture, told Kevin Gosztola that he is, quote, disappointed that Daniel Hale's case was continued in the Biden Justice Department. I had hopes that Biden's Justice Department appointee would recognize the public service that Daniel Hale provided when he revealed illegality and abuse in the drone program, said Kiriakou. Another organization, Defending Rights and Dissent, issued a statement that it stands with Hale as a courageous and heroic whistleblower. At the time of Hale's indictment, the organization issued a statement of support for him that was signed by 50 civil rights groups, journalists, and anti-war and other activist organizations. Medea Benjamin tweeted that it is outrageous that drone whistleblower Daniel Hale will be going to prison for exposing the drone murders by the U.S. military. Why don't the murderers go to jail, or the ones who okay the murderers, or the ones who make the killer drones and profit from murder? It's a great question, Medea Benjamin.
Absolutely. So this last slide here I put in for a little bit of fun. The National Geospatial Intelligence Agency, this was a group that Daniel was a part of, one of the agencies. And if you actually read through, I'll post a link. Daniel actually got into all of these agencies with the idea that they were horribly wrong, right? That everything that was happening was wrong. There's a part in Kevin Gostola's article in the Dissenter that I'll link after this. I'll put all 3 articles I used for this into the description, where Daniel knew what he was getting himself into and knew essentially going into it that he was going to be a whistleblower. So I am fucking proud that was his intent, getting into all of this, getting through the NSA, the NGA, and even the Air Force Intelligence Agency. So this is from the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency's website. This is just from their About Me section, right? So anyone who sails a U.S. ship, flies a U.S. aircraft, makes a national policy decision, fights wars, locates targets, responds to national disasters, or even navigates with a cell phone relies on the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency. The NGA enables all of these critical actions and shapes decisions that impact our world through the indispensable discipline of geospatial intelligence. The National Geospatial Intelligence Agency is a unique combination of intelligence agency and combat support agency. It is the world leader in timely, relevant, accurate, and accountable geospatial intelligence. The NGA enables the U.S. intelligence community and the Department of Defense to fulfill the President's national security priorities to protect the nation. The NGA also anticipates its partners' future needs and advances the GeoNat discipline to meet them. right? So there's one little part in this that I want to point out more than anything, right? Makes national policy decisions and locates targets.
Yeah.
So who do we know, that was a leader that got put into Congress that's making national policy decisions that no longer is supporting their political base that put them there, Misty? Do you know anyone like that?
That would be one Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez.
And do you think that there may be some influence from organizations such as the National Geospatial
I think there's
Intelligence?
no fucking question that there's some influence. Come for me if you want, but she's shady as fuck. Period. End of story. And yeah, but somebody asked in the chat, Jade Star asked in the chat, why plead guilty? I'll do my best to answer that because I've listened to several people discuss this, including John Kiriakou, who I'm a huge fan of. And it's just a personal choice. If you can just imagine the stress of trying to go up against the United States military and all that it has to come for you, going to trial is a very daunting task, especially given that you are no longer, or you're not allowed to really defend yourself anyways. So you're going to be dragged through a trial situation. It's incredibly expensive to do that. And then there's a very good chance that you could be convicted on all charges and then face decades in prison. I mean, I think that it's 10 years, I think, minimum for each charge that you face in espionage court, period. That doesn't matter. Like, that's just, if you go to espionage court, however many charges you have, it's 10 years minimum per charge. So instead of potentially just going to jail for 10 years, he could be facing 50 years. And so it really is just a personal choice. And so I'm not going to pretend to know what that's like or the pressure that he's under. And I'm certainly not going to question his decision. That's his decision to make with his attorneys. And whatever he chooses to do, I'll support and back him up to the best of my ability, which, just one chick from Ohio, but I'll do what I can. So yeah, that's kind of where it comes down. And each whistleblower is different. Their cases are different. Some of them choose to fight back more, and some don't. And that's okay. It really is just a personal decision based on the circumstances you find yourself in. So hopefully that helps answer that question.
So the last piece of news that I have actually, and it's something that I just found scrolling the internets. So I'm actually super excited that I can bring it up for everyone. Let me make sure my Zoom and everything is good so we can read it. This was an article put out by one of Julian Assange's brothers, Gabriel Shipton.
Oh yeah, I saw this one.
And it's really touching. I think it's super moving, and I appreciate him having the courage to stand up. It is his brother, but at the same time, this is a horrifying global battle for all of our rights. So I'm going to pull this up here for us to read, and I'll just read through it real quick. Bitcoiners should stand up for my brother Julian Assange. The persecution against the WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange is a cruise missile against a free internet, and Bitcoin could be next. An Espionage Act prosecution against Julian Assange isn't just an attack on the First Amendment. It's a cruise missile against a free internet, and Bitcoin could be next. I never thought that my older brother Julian Assange would need my help. I've always looked up to him. He is fearless, smart, nurturing, and protective. No matter what was going on in his world, whether he was traveling the world for groundbreaking publications, living under house arrest with an ankle bracelet, or seeking asylum in the Ecuadorian embassy, he could listen to my problems and offer sometimes unsolicited free advice. When I needed,
like a good big brother.
Right. When I needed him, he found a way to be there for me. In August 2019, I went to see Julian in Belmarsh prison, and I realized something had changed. After years of what the United Nations representatives have formally classified as psychological or no-touch torture, the effects on him are more visible than ever. I realize that now it is my turn to help my brother. We spoke about things on the ambiguous the COVID-19 response when my father was going to slow down, and the distraction and consequences of QAnon. However, a favorite topic of his was Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies. WikiLeaks and Bitcoin were both born of the cypherpunk movement, and it was of those embryonic days in the cypherpunks mailing list that Julian began his long intellectual interest and curiosity in Bitcoin. Julian participated in discussions and debates that cemented the cypherpunk movement's values around freedom, privacy, mastery of technology, and codified curiosity. most of the suspected creators and earliest backers of Bitcoin belong to or were inspired by this community of free thinkers and tinkerers. In 2010, after publishing trenches of material on Bush and Obama-era wars in Iraq and Afghanistan, the rules of engagement, Guantanamo Bay detainee files, and U.S. diplomatic cables, WikiLeaks was subjected to an extra-legal international banking blockade. Under intense political pressure, Visa and MasterCard refused to process donations, and banks and PayPal closed WikiLeaks and Julian's accounts. And it was under these circumstances that Shotis, whoever that may be, made a plea to WikiLeaks to hold off on accepting digital currency for donations, and thereby foregoing the attention it could draw. Satos, I'm terrible with names, feared that Bitcoin would not be able to survive if the protocol faced the same scrutiny and political pressure that WikiLeaks was dealing with. Julian and WikiLeaks heeded Satoshi's calls. I hope that's right. After giving Bitcoin 6 months to strengthen in June 2011, WikiLeaks became the first large organization to adopt Bitcoin. The alignment saw Bitcoin realize part of its founding principles as a financial tool, freedom from centralized political institutional control. Over the last 10 years, WikiLeaks has used the Bitcoin donations to fend off attacks and blockades, both illegal and legal, by governments and corporations, to overcome the extra-legal banking blockades and to be able to keep the archives alive, continue to publish, and remain censorship resistant. So I'm going to cut it there for that article, but I'll drop the link in chat for everyone because I think it's awesome. Like, it's totally worth going and reading through because and it keeps going. That was about half of it. Julian's brother is awesome. Putting out an article like that, explaining it in that sort of way of how this started, where Bitcoin comes from, and the uses that it's had is incredible to me. So.
And really, Bitcoin saved WikiLeaks. At a time when all of the other like fundraising and financial apps, PayPal and all of that, they all shut WikiLeaks down. But then there was cryptocurrency, and so Bitcoin is really has been very influential and impactful in the WikiLeaks story. It is a really good article. Everybody should definitely go check that out. There's also, I think there was a podcast or some kind of a show where both Gabriel and John Shipton, their father, were on talking about some of that stuff. Definitely check that out. I think that's all I got.
I think that's all we got for today. Steve is live with Ryan Christian right now with Ali and Glory.
I just popped by their chat and said, we're trying to wrap.
So if you could, once we wrap up, because we're saying our thank yous, hop over to Steve's chat, check out that conversation with Ryan Christian. We may actually be setting something up to have Ryan stream to the Action for Assange channel on YouTube. Not positive, but that's something that Steve and I talked about a little bit. But with that, I would like to thank everybody for hanging out. I would like to thank Jason for hopping in with us, the Convo Couch, Steve, Glory, the Slow News Day crew for everything they did last weekend in LA, and Franco and everyone else on the West Coast, Beth, my buddy Josh, Daniel, that got all that put together, because that was an amazing event as well. So huge thank you to everyone. My name's Andrew Smith. You can find me on Twitter at Andrew Zigman. You can find us on Twitter at action_4Assange. Or actionforassange.com. We will be putting out soon our next planned events. It'll probably be July 3rd, just so that way we have plenty of time to build until then. But if you are someone in a local community, please do what you can with the time and money you have left, because this fight isn't going away anytime soon. So thank you.
Yeah, and do it while you can, because we're quickly losing our ability to fight back. I'm Misty Winston. You can find me on Twitter at Sarcasm Stardust. I have another show called Facts on the Ground with Jesse Zerwell, and I'm actually launching another show because I don't have enough to do. This Wednesday at 7 p.m. It's called Bitch with Misty, or Bitch with Comrade Misty. It's like going to be just less formal, no like interviewee stuff, just like me and a couple people maybe or whatever, just bitching, just getting some shit off of our chest, like a vent session. Come check that out. You can hang out in the chat. It will be live streamed. Sleepy Josh is going to help me with that. And we can just, kick back and hang out together. So definitely check that out. Thanks again to Jason Bermas for coming on. It's always fun when he's here. Make sure you're following the A for A Twitter stuff and everything so you can keep track of all the events, because we're going to have more stuff coming up. I always feel like I'm forgetting something, but if I did, I'll tweet about it. So fuck it. And I also had, I knew I was going to be closing today, so I don't feel that anxious about it. So that's always nice. But yeah, I think that's it. If you guys have any ideas of things, and if you guys want to start like a local Assange group, there've been like maybe 6 or so that have popped up since last weekend's protests. Hit me up. I'm happy to help you get organized or boost. Like if you start a Twitter feed or a Twitter page, I've been trying to boost some of those groups to get you started. So please just contact me if you want any help with that. And yeah, I think that's it. And we'll see you next time. Good luck to us all.
And the link for Steve's rock fin is in the chat. If anyone wants.